The day we were supposed to get married at the courthouse, my fiancé, Samuel Sterling, had someone drag me out of the building. I remember the sound of my heels scraping the marble floor, the whispers around us, the shame burning through my chest. When I turned back, trembling and humiliated, I saw her, Rachel, his childhood sweetheart, walking toward him in a white dress. He looked at me with cold indifference and said, his voice cutting through the noise like glass, "Rachel's son needs legal custody. After our divorce, I'll marry you." The world stopped spinning. Everyone thought I'd agree. They thought I'd wait, because I'd already waited 7 years, loving him, defending him, forgiving every wound he left behind. But that night, something inside me finally broke. I left everything behind, my city, my name, my past, and vanished from his world. 3 years later, the airport was buzzing with noise, rolling suitcases, camera flashes, overlapping voices. I stepped through the sliding glass doors, the autumn air sharp and cold against my skin. It had been 3 years since I set foot in this country. 3 years since I last saw Samuel Sterling. As I scanned the crowd, my eyes caught a familiar group of men and women near the exit. Their laughter echoed above the noise. And then I saw him, tall, impeccably dressed, confidence radiating from every line of his posture. Samuel. His presence was exactly as I remembered, only colder. He was standing beside Rachel, their little circle chatting as if they owned the world. I hesitated. Maybe fate was just being cruel. But before I could look away, one of his friends turned, a man I vaguely recognized from years ago. His laughter faltered as his gaze landed on me. A slow, taunting smirk spread across his face. "Hey, isn't that Olivia?" The name sliced through the air like lightning. Conversation stopped, heads turned. Samuel's expression froze. For a fleeting second, something flashed in his eyes. Surprise, disbelief, maybe even guilt. Then it vanished, replaced by his usual cold composure. He stepped forward slowly, his voice low and sharp. "Olivia, what are you doing here? Where have you been all these years?" The crowd fell into a stunned silence, every curious gaze focused on me. Then, as if realizing his own slip, Samuel straightened his suit jacket and added coolly, "Well, I suppose you finally decided to come back." Laughter erupted around him, light, cruel, poisonous. "Told you she'd crawl back someday," one woman whispered. "Look at her. No makeup, no style. Guess she couldn't survive without Sam after all." Their words stabbed at me, but I stayed still, calm. Once I would have dressed up just to see him. Perfect hair, elegant heels, desperate for a compliment he'd never give. Now I stood before them in simple clothes, my posture straight, my heart untouched by their mockery. They didn't know me anymore. They only knew Olivia, the name I had left behind. Samuel's gaze lingered on me, confused, assessing, as if trying to reconcile the woman before him with the one he once owned. He gave a mocking smile. "You've caused enough trouble. Rachel's son is starting kindergarten. You'll be in charge of picking him up and dropping him off." The arrogance in his voice was familiar, the same tone he used when he thought I'd never leave. I didn't answer. His words no longer had the power to break me. Then Rachel stepped forward, her manicured hand resting lightly on his arm as she looked me over with a practiced smirk. "Olivia, don't be upset. Sam's only trying to help you. After all, you've been gone for 3 years. Who knows what you were doing?" Her voice dripped with mock pity. "You look so ordinary now. You couldn't even qualify as my assistant. But don't worry. I'll make sure no one looks down on you if you help take care of my son." I stared at her. The same woman who once stole everything from me and still felt the need to twist the knife. Samuel watched me in silence, misreading my calm for humiliation. His smirk deepened. "Enough. If you can't manage on your own, accept your place. Look after the child. Don't cause trouble. You know where you belong." Then, with cruel amusement, he added, "Don't worry. There's a maid's room available in our house." The group burst into laughter again, loud, mocking, echoing through the terminal. "See, Olivia? Sam's being generous," one of them jeered. "You should be grateful he's still giving you a place to stay." Rachel brushed her hair over her shoulder, her diamond earrings glinting under the light. "Don't take it the wrong way," she said sweetly. "If my son misbehaves, I'll discipline him myself. I won't let you suffer too much." Samuel laughed quietly, eyes never leaving me. Suffer? She disappeared once over something foolish. Maybe a little suffering will remind her where she stands. I could almost hear my own heartbeat in the silence that followed. For a moment, memories flashed through my mind. The Samuel who once carried me through the rain, who used to cook for me in our tiny apartment, who swore he'd give me the world even when he had nothing. That man was gone. In his place stood someone I didn't recognize. Cold, shallow, and cruel. But that was fine. I wasn't the same girl either. I looked him straight in the eyes and said quietly, "Weren't you here to pick me up? Let's go." The laughter stopped. Confusion flickered across their faces. Rachel frowned. "Pick you up? Who do you think you are?" She pointed to the sign the driver was holding. "We're waiting for Olivia. Do you even know who that is?" Of course I did. That was me. But I said nothing, letting her speak. "Olivia is Mrs. Vaughn, the legal wife of Mr. Gabriel Vaughn." A hush swept through the group. Shock flickered in every face. "Mr. Vaughn, the business tycoon?" someone whispered. "The one who built half of the city's skyline? I heard he only has one weakness, his wife." Rachel, suddenly eager to show off, added proudly, "Mr. Vaughn once bought the True Love Forever bracelet at Christie's for $20 million, just to make Mrs. Vaughn happy. Every woman envies her." Then she looked down and froze. "That one, and that's the bracelet!" Her voice cracked. All eyes turned to me. The delicate bracelet on my wrist gleamed softly under the lights. Samuel's expression twisted. He grabbed my wrist roughly, his laugh sharp and cruel. "Nice imitation. Who sold you this? Some street vendor?" I pulled my hand free and smiled faintly, brushing my fingers against the cool metal. The same bracelet he had just mocked was genuine, and it had once been mine. Rachel reached forward, inspecting it closely, her tone faltering. "It does look different from the replicas." Then she sneered again, covering her unease with ridicule. "Or are you trying to say you're that Olivia, Mrs. Vaughn herself?" The group erupted in laughter once more, but this time I didn't flinch, because the truth was simple. They were right. I was Olivia Vaughn, and Samuel Sterling had just humiliated the one woman he could never afford to offend. To them, the very idea was absurd. Gabriel Vaughn, the world-renowned financial prodigy, ruthless in business, decisive and untouchable, could never be connected to someone like me. To their eyes, I was still Olivia Hayes, the woman whose wedding Samuel Sterling canceled at the last minute 3 years ago. An embarrassment from the past, an inconvenience he'd erased. They couldn't possibly imagine that I now bore the name Vaughn. Rachel twirled my bracelet between her manicured fingers, her crimson nails gleaming under the airport lights. The diamonds shimmered against her skin, mocking her own reflection. "Olivia," she said with a sweet, poisonous smile, "why don't you give me this bracelet? I'll pay you double for it." Her tone was playful, but her eyes were sharp, greedy. Fearing she might drop it, I said sharply, "Give it back. It was a gift from Gabriel." I didn't get to finish. Samuel's hand shot out, gripping my wrist so hard my bones ached. His face darkened, his expression twisting into something between rage and humiliation. "Shut up!" he barked. "Olivia Hayes, how dare you mention Mr. Vaughn's name, pretending you have something to do with him? Are you trying to get me killed?" The force of his anger startled me. My balance faltered, and a faint sting bloomed across my cheek where his knuckles brushed me. For a moment, time seemed to stop. The people around us went silent, shocked, but not surprised. Samuel Sterling losing his temper was nothing new. Then came the voices. "Olivia, do you have any idea how lucky we were to be assigned to pick up Mrs. Vaughn today?" one of his friends hissed. "Sam's company got acquired by Vaughn Group last year. We all depend on Mr. Vaughn's goodwill now. If you make a fool of yourself here, you'll ruin him." Another chimed in, their voice laced with disgust. "You've really lost it, pretending to be connected to someone like him. You'll drag Sam down with your lies." Their words fell over me like ashes. Rachel crossed her arms, her voice trembling with a mix of rage and triumph. "Ungrateful woman. Sam was kind enough to offer you a ride, And you're repaying him with humiliation? Even if you resent him, you don't have to stoop this low for revenge. The familiarity of her tone was suffocating. 3 years ago, I'd heard that same venom every day, every fight, every misunderstanding, every time she twisted my silence into guilt, and Samuel believed her. Once he would have defended me. Now, he only glared with disappointment, as if all those years of love had meant nothing. "Jealous as always," he muttered. His voice was soft and almost pitying, and it disgusted me. After a long, heavy pause, he sighed, reached into his suit pocket, and pulled out a checkbook. The pen scratched against paper. He tore the check neatly and handed it to me. "Here," he said coldly. 200,000. For old time's sake, I'll let this go. Buy yourself some decent clothes. I'll even help you find a respectable job. Don't worry. Since Vaughn Group acquired my company, this kind of money means nothing to me." He smiled faintly as if expecting gratitude. I looked at the check, his signature scrawled across the bottom, then at the man who once promised me forever. My stomach turned. Slowly, I brushed his hand aside and retrieved the bracelet from Rachel's trembling fingers. The metal felt warm in my palm, solid and familiar. The only thing in this room that was truly mine. I lifted my gaze and smiled, calm and unbothered. "That won't be necessary, Mr. Sterling," I said softly. "I don't accept things from strangers." The air froze. Rachel's smirk faltered. Samuel's friends fell silent, exchanging uncertain glances. The arrogance in their eyes dimmed, replaced by confusion, and a flicker of unease. For the first time, Samuel didn't know what to say. And then, "Mrs. Vaughn," the voice cut through the tension like a blade. Deep, commanding, echoing across the marble hall. Everyone turned. 3 men in black suits strode toward us, their steps synchronized, their expressions composed. Each bore the golden crest of Vaughn Corporation embroidered over their breast pocket, subtle yet unmistakable. The man in front, tall and middle-aged, held a sleek placard that read in elegant cursive, "Olivia Vaughn." The crowd rippled with whispers. "Mrs. Vaughn, the wife of Gabriel Vaughn." "The real Mrs. Vaughn?" "But she said her name was Olivia." I stepped forward slowly, my heels echoing on the polished floor. "Thank you for coming to get me," I said clearly, my voice steady, loud enough for everyone to hear. The lead assistant bowed slightly, his tone respectful. "Mr. Vaughn instructed us to ensure your safe return, ma'am. The car is waiting outside." Samuel's complexion drained of color. He stepped back, his breath catching in disbelief. Rachel's eyes widened, her hand flying to her mouth as though trying to suppress a gasp. The people who'd laughed a moment ago now stood frozen, silent, and pale. Samuel's lips moved soundlessly before words finally escaped, cracked and trembling. This has to be a joke." I looked at him, the man who once shattered me, and smiled faintly. "Did you really think I disappeared alone and broken?" 3 years is a long time, Samuel," I said softly. "Long enough to learn what real love and real power look like." Without another glance, I walked past them, the weight of my silence louder than any insult I could have thrown. Rachel's perfume lingered faintly in the air, sickly sweet. As I passed her, I saw the fear in her eyes, raw, trembling, desperate. The automatic doors opened, letting in a rush of cool wind. A sleek black car waited at the curb, its tinted windows glinting under the pale sunlight. One of the men opened the door for me with a bow. "Welcome home, Mrs. Vaughn." I stepped inside, feeling the soft leather against my palms. Through the glass, I saw Samuel still standing there, motionless, lost, while Rachel clutched his arm, whispering frantically. He looked smaller than I remembered, pathetic almost. The car glided away from the airport, the city skyline unfolding before me. Skyscrapers, billboards, the shimmer of life that once felt suffocating. Now it was nothing but a backdrop to my quiet victory. I exhaled slowly, feeling years of bitterness fade like smoke. For the first time, I didn't feel the need to look back. Still, the vibration of my phone broke the silence. The name on the screen made my lips curve gently. "Gabriel, everything okay, love? Are you on your way home?" I typed back quickly, smiling faintly. Yes, love, everything's under control. There was no need for details. He'd find out soon enough. The entire city would. And knowing Gabriel, if he ever discovered that Samuel had dared to touch me, the man wouldn't see the sunrise tomorrow. That night, the lights of the city burned bright against the horizon, a restless ocean of gold and white. But in a luxury suite across town, Samuel Sterling was pacing like a man on the edge of madness. "Calm down," Rachel hissed, following him as he tore through folders and papers on the desk. "It must be a mistake. Someone's trying to make us look stupid." He didn't answer. His tie hung loose, his once immaculate hair a mess, his face pale under the harsh light. He looked less like the confident executive he once was, and more like a man watching his empire burn. "No," he muttered, switching on his laptop. "No, I'll prove it." His fingers flew across the keyboard. The glow of the screen reflected in his dark, sleepless eyes as he typed the name he hadn't dared to say in years. Olivia Vaughn. Within seconds, his world fell apart. Headlines flooded the screen, hundreds of them, each more unbelievable than the last. Gabriel Vaughn and wife, Olivia, attend Global Finance Summit in Paris. The Vaughn couple. A love story that redefined power and loyalty. Mrs. Vaughn stuns in $20 million bracelet at Christie's gala. The same bracelet. The same face. The same woman he'd once thrown away like she was nothing. Samuel's hands trembled as the truth stared back at him in cold pixels. The room felt smaller, suffocating. Rachel's voice broke through his daze, shrill with denial. "No, it can't be her. You said she was nothing." But Samuel couldn't hear her anymore. Because the woman he had humiliated, mocked, and cast aside had risen far beyond his reach. And now, she belonged to Gabriel Vaughn, the man every nation's elite feared and respected. And for the first time in his life, Samuel Sterling realized he hadn't just lost Olivia. He had made an enemy of Gabriel Vaughn's wife. Official photographs began circulating online. Gabriel Jung Vaughn, tall, elegant, light brown hair neatly combed back, gray eyes cool and commanding, a global icon of wealth and intelligence. And beside him, me, smiling, radiant, unshaken, the same woman Samuel once dismissed. Those images weren't supposed to exist. I'd requested privacy for the first 3 years of our marriage. But now, Gabriel had approved their release. It was time to stop hiding. Time to be seen. There were private wedding photos taken abroad. Rumors that Gabriel had waited years before finding me again. Articles about the priceless jewelry he'd given me. Pictures of us at charity events, hand in hand, our smiles genuine, all just a click away. Samuel collapsed onto the bed, face ghostly pale. Rachel stared at the screen as if it were a nightmare she couldn't wake from. "This can't be true," she whispered. But it was. That same night, while I slept peacefully in our home, my head resting on a pillow that still carried Gabriel's scent, Samuel lay awake, drowning in the truth. The woman he had once crushed beneath his pride was now untouchable. And worse, she had moved on without ever looking back. Samuel's ego burned like an ember refusing to die. But for me, that fire had long turned to ash. The next morning, sunlight spilled softly through the curtains. For the first time in a long time, I woke without dread. Despite the awkward encounter at the airport the day before, I felt strangely at peace, as if the universe had finally shifted in my favor. When I reached for my phone, I saw a new message from Gabriel. "Meeting with executives tonight. Press will be there. Come with me. I want everyone to see you." A faint smile touched my lips. Gabriel wasn't one for grand gestures. His affection showed in quiet, deliberate ways. But this message was his way of telling me, "You're not hiding anymore." By evening, a black car arrived to pick me up. I chose a sleek black dress with silver accents on the shoulders, understated but powerful. My hair fell straight down my back, and soft makeup framed my calm expression. When I stepped into the hotel lobby, the air shifted. Cameras flashed. Journalists whispered my name. The once-forgotten Olivia was suddenly someone the world wanted to see. Inside, Gabriel stood tall among global executives, composed, sharp, every inch the man who commanded rooms without raising his voice. His gray eyes softened slightly when they found me. The crowd parted as I approached, and then, in front of everyone, Gabriel bought a rare diamond piece and fastened it gently around my neck himself. The cameras went wild. Rachel, standing nearby, clenched her fists until her knuckles whitened. Samuel's expression was unreadable, a storm of regret and disbelief. In that single, breathtaking moment, every cruel rumor, every whisper of doubt, disappeared. I was no longer the fragile Olivia they had mocked. I had become the woman they could never break. Later that night, as Gabriel and I were leaving, Rachel intercepted me near the exit. Her voice sweet, her smile poisonous. "Enjoy your moment," she purred. "It won't last." I met her gaze, calm and unbothered. "You'd be surprised what I'm capable of holding on to." Then I walked away, heels clicking on marble, dignity intact. I didn't look back. Let her choke on her own words. The following morning, justice came faster than anyone expected. Footage from the gallery surfaced online. Rachel, clearly caught trying to slip the stolen jewel into my bag. The evidence was undeniable. "Mrs. Vaughn, we sincerely apologize," the gallery manager said, his voice trembling. "It's clear you did nothing wrong." Rachel was escorted out as phones flashed and reporters shouted questions. Samuel trailed behind her, humiliated and furious, unable to meet my eyes. Within 24 hours, headlines flooded every outlet. Samuel Sterling's wife caught attempting to frame Mrs. Vaughn. The backlash was merciless. Rachel became the public's favorite villain. Samuel's pristine reputation crumbled with hers. I didn't celebrate. I didn't need to. People like them always destroy themselves eventually. All I ever had to do was stand still. A few days later, as I reviewed documents for a philanthropic project in Gabriel's office, my phone buzzed. "Samuel, I need to see you. It's urgent." I stared at the message for a long moment. Part of me wanted to delete it, pretend it never appeared. But another part, the one that needed to close this chapter completely, refused to ignore it. Before agreeing to anything, I texted Gabriel. I told him Samuel wanted to meet. Within seconds, he replied, "Don't go alone. Bring one of the guards, just in case." When I stepped out of the Inox Sinestamar building that evening, I didn't expect to find him there, waiting near the steps like a ghost who didn't know where else to go. His hair was disheveled, his suit creased, and his eyes, tired, sunken, restless, the kind of eyes that hadn't slept in days. "I'm not here to fight," he said the moment I froze. "I just need to talk." I hesitated. Every instinct told me to walk away, but closure has a strange pull, cruel, magnetic. Vaughn's security detail lingered near the corner, pretending to scroll on his phone while keeping us in sight. The cafe Samuel picked was half empty, dim lights, low jazz playing from old speakers. We sat near the back, by a window that reflected both our faces in uneven fragments. For a moment, neither of us spoke. The air felt too thick to breathe. "So?" I said finally. "You wanted to talk, I'm listening." He looked down at the cup in front of him, untouched, hands trembling slightly. "Rachel lied to me," he said abruptly, "about everything." I frowned. "You'll have to be more specific." "The child," he blurted, almost choking on the words. "The child wasn't mine." I blinked. The sentence hung between us, raw and heavy. I waited for the familiar surge of anger, but it didn't come, only a quiet, tired clarity. He leaned forward, desperate, words tumbling out too fast. "She told me you were the reason everything fell apart. She said you were trying to destroy us, that you couldn't handle me being with her. I believed her, Olivia. I believed every damn word." "Of course you did," I murmured. "I was blind. Completely blind." His voice cracked. "You kept warning me and I pushed you away. I called you jealous, manipulative. God, I was the one being manipulated." I let out a bitter laugh, not out of cruelty, just disbelief at how late his realization had come. "Rachel wanted you long before you ever noticed," I said. "Every dinner, every meeting, every trip we took, she somehow appeared." You thought it was a coincidence? It was calculated, Samuel. She studied you, planned every step, until you thought her lies were love. He rubbed his face with both hands, shaking his head. Don't you think I know that now? He muttered. Every time I look back, I see it. How she'd twist things, how she'd plant doubts about you. I let her poison everything. You didn't let her, I corrected softly. You chose her. He looked up sharply, eyes wet and unfocused. I didn't mean to hurt you, he said, voice trembling. I was angry. I was stupid. And now... He trailed off, glancing toward the window where our reflections blurred in the glass. For a second, I wasn't sure who he was speaking to. Me, or the ghost of the woman he'd destroyed. Now you're sorry, I said quietly, but only because she took everything from you. He shook his head quickly, almost panicked. No, I'm sorry because I took you for granted. Because I believed the wrong person. Because I let the only woman who ever loved me walk away thinking she wasn't enough. The words hit the table like stones, heavy, unsteady, too late. I stood slowly, gathering my coat. You're not sorry for losing me, Samuel, I said, my voice low but unwavering. You're sorry for realizing what I was worth when it no longer matters. He didn't move, didn't reach for my hand the way he used to when he thought a touch could erase his mistakes. Now he just sat there, shoulders slumped, eyes empty, a man caving under the weight of every lie he'd chosen to believe. I still love you, he whispered, the words trembling out like a confession carved from guilt. His voice cracked, soft but desperate, a final plea to rewrite a story already finished. I smiled, not in bitterness, but with the quiet peace of someone who had finally healed. It's a shame, I said gently, that you only learned how to love once you had nothing left. Silence swallowed the space between us. The cafe's dim light flickered, the scent of burnt espresso and rain from the open door wrapping around us like fading memories. And then, as if the universe itself chose that exact moment, Gabriel appeared. Tall, composed, unshakable. The golden hour sunlight spilled through the glass behind him, gilding the sharp edges of his tailored suit and catching in his light brown hair. His gray eyes were unreadable, calm, but with a storm lurking beneath their surface. He didn't need to speak. His presence alone shifted the air. He walked to my side, slow and deliberate, and placed his hand gently at my waist. A simple, steady touch that said everything. She's mine, not in ownership, but in devotion, a bond built from trust, not control. Samuel's eyes flickered between us, glassy and defeated. At least, he began, his voice hoarse. At least I'm happy that you're happy, Olivia. From the bottom of my heart, I'm sorry for everything. I know you'll never forgive me, but I need you to know that I regret it all. For a heartbeat, I saw a glimpse of the man I once loved, before pride and lies turned him into someone I no longer recognized. Now he looked small, fragile, human. I hope, I said softly, that one day you forgive yourself, because that's the only way you'll ever be free. He gave a faint, broken smile, nodding as though the words themselves were too heavy to hold. And just like that, I knew it was over. I turned to Gabriel, my heart steady for the first time in years. He gave me a small nod, a silent promise that the past was exactly where it belonged. When we stepped outside, the sun had begun to set. Behind us, Samuel remained in the cafe window, framed by the fading light, a man made of regret and shadow, alone, defeated, and finally aware that he had lost the only woman who had ever truly loved him. The next morning, sunlight streamed through the curtains, soft and golden. Suitcases stood open near the bed, neatly packed, passports stacked on the dresser, our lives folded into order. This was it, the final chapter in a city that had both destroyed and remade me. Gabriel stood by the balcony, speaking quietly on the phone with his legal team. Rachel's scandal had shaken the entire financial world. Every headline carried her name. Every broadcast replayed her downfall. At her most recent court hearing, she had broken down completely. Mascara streaking her face, muttering to herself, "It's not my fault, it's Olivia, it's all her fault." Then in front of the cameras, she screamed, "It's all your fault, Olivia," before the guards pulled her away. The next morning, another article appeared. The woman whose wedding never happened. The real story of Olivia Hayes. It detailed everything: the betrayal, the canceled vows, the scandal that had once humiliated me publicly. But now the tone was different. The world no longer pitied me. They respected me. As for Samuel Sterling, his name had vanished from the headlines, replaced by public apologies and legal notices. He had filed for divorce, publicly admitting that the child Rachel carried was never his. Evidence surfaced of her embezzlement. Company funds transferred to a secret account. Photographs of her meeting with another man late at night. The man later revealed to be the real father. Samuel's empire had collapsed from within. His once glorious company, Sterling Enterprises, was under full investigation. His assets were frozen, his mansion repossessed. In the city he once ruled, Samuel was now a whisper, a cautionary tale about pride, betrayal, and blindness. I stood by the window, the skyline stretching endlessly before me. The city that had once been both battlefield and cage now seemed almost peaceful. I could hear the faint hum of traffic below, the laughter of strangers, the rhythmic pulse of life going on, indifferent to everything it had witnessed. Behind me, I felt the warmth of Gabriel's presence before I even heard him move. He wrapped his arms around me from behind, resting his palms gently against my stomach. His touch was warm, grounding. "Ready to start again?" he murmured, his breath brushing my ear. I turned slightly, meeting his gaze. His gray eyes, steady, loyal, and full of quiet affection, softened when they met mine. There was no need for words. I nodded and he smiled, his forehead resting against mine for a brief, perfect moment. There was nothing left here to hold me back. Outside, the car waited at the curb. The morning air smelled faintly of rain and asphalt, fresh and new. And then I saw him. Samuel. He stood across the street, almost blending into the crowd. His suit was wrinkled, his hair unkempt, his face gaunt. He looked like he hadn't eaten in days, older, thinner, exhausted. But when his eyes met mine, he smiled. A small, genuine smile, the kind that said thank you, for the love that once was, for the lessons that remained. I didn't wave. I didn't need to. Some goodbyes are better in silence. Gabriel opened the car door and extended his hand. I took it, our fingers fitting together as naturally as breathing. The city lights reflected on the window as we drove away, gold streaks blurring into motion. The places that once held pain and betrayal faded behind us, replaced by the quiet rhythm of a new beginning. At the airport, everything ran seamlessly. Vaughn Corporation's staff handled our departure. First class, private, efficient. As we boarded the jet, the hum of the engines filled the cabin, the soft vibration of change. Through the window, the city sprawled beneath us, glittering, unknowing, disappearing into clouds as we ascended. I exhaled slowly, feeling a weight I hadn't realized I was still carrying finally lift. A slow smile touched my lips. Inside me, I carried our child, a secret shared only between Gabriel and me. He reached for my hand, fingers tracing the wedding band he'd placed there with such quiet certainty. "From now on," he said softly, pressing a kiss to my forehead, "it's just you, me, and whatever comes next." He placed his hand over my stomach, his thumb brushing gently, protective, reverent, full of promise. Outside, the sky opened, endless, luminous, infinite. The past lay far below, buried in the ruins of everything we'd survived. Up here there was only freedom, and the promise of tomorrow. For the first time, I didn't just survive. I lived, and as Gabriel's hand rested over mine, our future stretched before us like an untouched horizon. And I knew, with absolute certainty, this was only the beginning.